Hi, I'm Brendan Henkel, AVP of Solutions Engineering at Element 451. In this Pulse Check episode, I'm sharing my lightning session at the 2026 AI Engage Summit, AI for Application Fraud Detection. We're going to dig into how institutions can use AI to operationalize fraud detection directly at the application level, stopping fraudsters before they ever gain access to seats and funds, why that matters right now in higher ed, and what does it look like in practice. So let's jump in. So I'm going to actually be talking to you all today surrounding how you can use AI to stop fraud at the first submit. And what we're doing at Element is something that is revolutionizing schools and transforming how they're able to stop fraudsters right in their tracks. But what do we see going on in terms of this growing crisis and fraud, right? It's been, surging ever since 2020. The numbers keep going up and up and up. The hundreds of millions of dollars that are being lost across institutions across the country. And now we're looking at 1 in 4 of every application at colleges is now maybe fraudulent. And those numbers are astronomical, right? And there's an intervention that is needed, and there's problems that are going on because, really what is happening here is not only are as institutions losing money, but also that's aid and seats that are being taken away from students that actually need it. And there's no surprise that the correlation of when this started to surge aligns directly with AI coming and ramping into our society as quickly as it did, right? AI has completely changed the game for not only institutions, but also fraudsters. What we're seeing is that legacy systems that have existed for a long time now can't detect modern fraud tactics like synthetic IDs and bots, like fighting fire with fire can, right, with AI. And so modern problems call for modern tools. So what we're doing at Element 451 is we are doing two things, right? It is a layered approach to security through identity verification and through agentic AI. So we are using a partnership with Stripe that we have to be able to cross-check identity with real-world data and verification metrics like driver's license or other IDs or even international documents to the data and information they're providing with us so we can pass through that identity verification. But we're also at the point of submission on your applications using a fraud detection agent to evaluate every single application that runs through your institution. And you'll hear a little bit more about that. But what happens here, right? And what early detection ensures is that, financial aid goes to real students. Staff does not have to have manual hours of review. Whenever I worked at an institution, I was on the loan processing team. We shared an office with the fraud team, right? Their job was miserable, even though they had like a really cool name, like the Fraud Squad. It was awesome. But in reality, their job was not fun, right? It was hours and hours and hours of manual review that was drowning them just to kind of comb through data and figure out what was going on. And so that just helps colleges avoid, right? What we're doing is trying to help colleges avoid those downstream administrative and funding issues that are coming up more and more. But what does this look like, right? So student comes in, and the placement of where you do these steps can differ, right? Based on institution. You can start with identity verification, which can effectively, take that group of students and applications that are coming in and funnel in the real applications compared to the ones that don't pass the identity verification. Or you can have identity verification on the tail end, right? That is something that is going to be a little bit more expensive than just running through the fraud detection agent. So maybe you want to do that as little times as possible. Either way, right, you're looking at this cyclical process of stopping students right in their tracks from the very first moment they start filling out their application all the way through to when they hit submit. Now you're immediately being flagged, right? So we're filtering through the identity verification, the real-time detection, which is that early intervention, happens immediately. And then the human in the loop approach of oversight with AI support comes in. So you're able to see the flags as they come through and know exactly when to step in and when to stop them. So right at the point of decision for that application, what we're doing here is we're evaluating each and every application that comes through with a multi-factor analysis. It's saying, hey, this student has a low risk of being fraud, medium, or high. And so now once that flag gets raised, someone gets alerted. You can even provide automations to stop that student right in their tracks so they don't move any further through the enrollment process depending on what flag was raised. And then you can review the why, right? AI is not just saying, hey, this was a high risk and doesn't give you any more information. It's doing an analysis of it and it's telling you why it flagged it as that. So when the human does come in, they're able to easily make a determination on what is actually going on. So what is Bolt AI actually analyzing, right? It's looking at a lot of different factors, and even these are larger buckets that even break down into smaller ones, but it's evaluating things like your submission timing. So how long is it taking students to actually submit the application? It's looking at all of their different contact information pieces, right? So email risk, phone data validity. It's checking out their IP address. It's seeing if they're using a VPN or not, looking at where their location is that they're submitting it based off of where they're saying that they're located, looking at different geographic signals and even duplicate behavior, like if they're having repeat submissions or similar users with devices. So it's looking at which devices are being used, and if there's multiple different applications from the same one, that could also be a trend of showcasing and flagging a potentially fraud student. So these are all things that within fractions of a second, agents are able to look at every single piece of data on all these students that are coming through and evaluate and associate risk. This is the time saver, right? This is what is removing the work from the people that are actually combing through this data on a day-to-day basis. And we've seen it save institutions incredible amounts of work. So realistically, why does this matter, right? Why do our agents stand out between others, right? The truth is, and it's just like a lot of other problems with software on campus in your tech stack, you're having to use too many tools that don't talk to each other, right? That they don't communicate with each other. Whenever you can look at this and take a approach where all of your constituent data, all of your application data, that system that is running all of your communications and tracking all of that behavior is all managed and mapped within one system, and it's able to communicate with the agents and the identity verification that are also within that platform to give you a comprehensive solution and a layered security strategy for colleges and universities alike. So you're able to, flag risks without creating friction for students. You're able to confirm identities to filter the bad actors and have AI stop the rest. And then it's designed to work alongside other systems if necessary. But you're able to reduce that number of systems that you actually have to use to do this job effectively. So let's keep on going here because I want to have time for a demo and we're running short on it. But it's more than just talking about capabilities, right? Like Brendan, stop talking about what it can do and show me where it's actually worked, right? Well, there are two schools that come to mind that have seen incredible results for this, and that's both Galveston College and Kellogg Community College. Galveston, actually, we talked to them earlier this week, and they said it has been incredible. They're actually taking this information to the board to show how instrumental the fraud detection element has been in them stopping these students. But they've seen 25% of their total application pool flagged as potentially fraudulent. And since October of last year, 555 total applications have been flagged as fraudulent. And a result of this, like as they started seeing these flow in, instead of even having to manually, once the human comes in the loop, stop things from happening and going out like communications or labels, tags on the record, they were able to take the information that student was flagged as a high risk fraudulent student, and they were able to stop that student in their tracks, pause and unsubscribe them from any email or text alerts, and then insert them under a category and a tag of fraudulent student. So now that can be easily gathered and they can be put in their own separate audiences for driving and automating workflows on the back end. So Galveston College, probably our most recent case study that we've kind of talked through the school with, but Kellogg Community College, we've actually done a webinar with them before where Jenny from Kellogg was able to talk in detail about their process and what they do, but they have also seen ridiculous numbers, right, in terms of impact of using the fraud detection agents within Element. So within a 1 week time frame, they had 186 applications flagged as potentially fraudulent that operated at a 94+% success rate when flagging, and they were able to catch 66 of those applications as FAFSA-based fraudulent applications. So those were on the way of being, dollars lost. And so all the fraudulent applications that were able to be caught before they were imported into their SIS, which at the time they're using is a colleague. So that is what we're seeing on our end is just proven results. And we have more stories. These ones just stood out kind of above the rest just for the amount of accuracy and the volume. And everyone in this on this call seeing this, right? This is not just a siloed problem for one part of the country. This is happening all over the country, and people are trying to figure it out. You have to be able to match fire with fire, right? You have to fight fire with fire, and use AI to fight with the tools that those fraudsters are using, which is bots and AI to begin with. So that is really what we are doing in terms of slides. But let me show you what it looks like, because that's really the most fun part here, as I have a few more minutes. In Element 451, all of your applications are managed within here, right? And before agents, you could come in here and see a comprehensive view of all of your applications that needed to be reviewed. You can do work from these pages. We won't get too deep into the weeds, but if you'll notice here, you have this bolt analysis, right? So we have agents that are coming in here and yep, they're reviewing and actually going through and giving a first read on applications as well. But you also probably notice this medium risk sign right here on the right. So if I double click on that, that's actually going to open up a little slide out here that allows me to see Kelly Sinicola. Sorry, Kelly, if you all were in the last session, you heard her speak, but she's a medium risk. So whether she's someone we should check out. But you'll notice, remember all of those flags and things that we're checking, those are all going to be identified here under here for the reasoning why she was flagged as a medium risk, right? So the entire undergraduate application was completed and submitted in 29 seconds, right? That is a flag. That seems like kind of like bot behavior. And so it's going to go through and give you the reasoning why, and it's going to give you the power there, right? It's not saying, yes, Kelly is a fraud. It's saying she has the risk to be. So you should probably check that out. And it's doing all of the work on the back end to ensure that you don't have to spend as much time getting to this point of where that student is marked fraudulent or legitimate. And so that's the first piece that is being done here. But the second piece of the equation is being able to go in and have identity verification set up as well. So what we're doing with identity verification is we are partnering with Stripe to make sure that this is done. And they are obviously industry leaders in the financial industry. So they have cut their teeth to make sure that this works and works really well. And so you're able to, at the application level, come in here and turn on identity verification for any one of or multiple applications. Once that is done, then you make the decision, do I want to make this a requirement to submit the application or do I not, right? And this is where you're kind of deciding in what part of the process do I want this to occur? Do I want it to occur before they submit their application and the fraud detection agent runs? Or do I want it to become part of their checklist items that they do before they become enrolled, right? It's just deciding where you want it in your flow. But essentially, it's as easy as toggling on 2 points. Once that's toggled on for an application, you'll be able to see that that is now added as one of the checklist items on an application of enrollment for students. So if I click on that, you'll see an immediate pop-up that comes up. Element College requires your identity verification as part of your application. We partner with Element 451 and Stripe to provide a secure, trusted verification process. And then I hit next, and it's going to take me through a very, very student-friendly process. It's going to explain it to me. I'm going to take a photo of a valid ID. This can be a driver's license. This can be a passport. Stripe has also set up their system to work with international documents as well. The second point is Element will only have access to this verification data. So once it gets and captures and verifies that that student is not fraudulent, then it will actually delete and destroy all that information that they've submitted, and that they're using biometric technology on their images to make sure that it's used. So once I agree to those terms, it's going to give me a QR code, which is the desired state here, right? Then they're going to use that supercomputer that's in their hand 95% of the time to walk through, use the biometric scanners, the cameras, everything that exists on that device to not only take a picture of their license front and back, then scan their face, turn their face left and right, like they're setting up Face ID. I apologize. And then they are going to then immediately be verified in here once that is submitted. And then that verification goes from needing it to a check mark, and you'll be able to see and track that on the contact record. So right now I'm showing is not verified, but as soon as that was able to process, that will go up and showcase as now verified. And now you can actually manage that within the person data. So if there's any reason that you need to waive that identity verification, or if they were verified, you can mark them back to not verified. And then they have to do it again. So it pops up in their checklist item again. But again, we're trying to simplify the process of how you, not only how you set it up, but how you execute this at scale for all of your applications coming through. So all of those high volume application institutions, this is going to revolutionize what you do and how you do it. Thanks for listening to this Pulse Check episode. If you'd like to dive deeper, be sure to check out the full lightning session replay from AI Engage. And if you're continuing the conversation around application and fraud detection, I'd love for you to take one idea from this episode and put it into action on your campus or workplace. Thanks again for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Pulse. The show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.